Hey, I'm Mike Myers, and this is the Songwriting for Guitar podcast, which is geared to support songwriters and producers to gain confidence and turn pro. I bring on industry experts to help you improve and monetize your skills, engage better in the writing process, and build healthy habits to create a sustainable career that you love. Caffeinated, inspirational, conversational. I'm so glad you are here. Round two, if you will. Round two. This is round two with you.
The second time. Dude, it's great to be here, man.
Second time. And what's lovely is like, since the first time I had you on, we've met in person a whole bunch of times, Sunflower Cafe all the way, as I always try to get everyone who comes to Nashville. I'm like, Sunflower, that's where we're meating.
Are you vegan? Do you actually eat plant-based all the time?
So I have vegan tendencies. So I'll say that I go pretty much vegan because I feel better when I do. I feel much better when I do. If I try to go, I can't. Yeah, all dairy stuff I can't really do that much. So it's just like vegan has always been good, and especially when I moved here, Jen found so many good vegan restaurants.
Yeah, there's a bunch. There's a bunch of good stuff.
I love, if I'm feeling a little bougie, I'll go to Avo. Avo's really good.
Avo's a good one. They used to do, so I did vegan, and I know this isn't necessarily a health show or something like that, but it can go this way. Well, it's super important to me because my attitude is like, I love making music. I love making records. I want to do this for a long time. And as we both know, you always have this feeling like I haven't made enough. I haven't created enough and there's so much more to do. And so I'm like, all right, I need to dial in my life strategy so that I get to make music for a really long time, So I've been really focused on, exercise and health, been focused on just how I'm eating. I don't want to get sick. I don't want to, we know a lot of people that or you see a lot of people in the music world around us, especially since music finds itself in bar settings so commonly, that there's a lifestyle that doesn't sustain there. But I did vegan for a while, and then this summer I did a crazy long juice fast, nothing but juices. 54 days, dude. I did a 54-day juice fast. And I still felt like I was quitting earlier than I wanted to. And so that clears out all your digestion and just gives you a full detox, full body reset. And then I've been doing raw vegan. So it's, fresh fruits, fresh vegetables, and just eating that all the time.
Yeah. Even though you were like, hey, this isn't a health show, I think it's important because, I talk a lot about sustainability. How are you going to maintain what you're doing? How can you build? How can you scale? And we talk about the technical side of, songwriting. This is production, all those things. But you yourself, you have to maintain your personal health, because if you don't, it's not sustainable. You're not, we have a job too in which we're very sitting at a desk a lot. We're hunched over things. We're listening to things. So it's the idea that not only do you have to move around and exercise, Whoop always tells me, get your steps in, get your steps in, get your steps in. And just you got to push yourself, get higher strain. Eating healthy not only affects how you're going to feel during the day, but how you're going to feel the next day and the next
100%,
so
man.
If you eat like shit, it's just, don't be surprised that I feel like shit. Why do I feel awful?
Well, I mean, I can tell you the number of times, lunch, we go get Mexican, and it was my number one favorite thing to get. And, you get stuffed on it. And then afterwards, you just hit to get that nappy feeling, and it's hard to go. I mean, if I'm engineering or producing, it's hard to want to jump back into work focus mode. And God knows if I had to sing, or something like that, or, was actually had to go play music, I guess I could go play a really sleepy song maybe,
but what is it? Or those glasses where you have that have eyes on it, and you just put it on and you go ahead, I'm tracking you.
Right.
And you just like just let them there. I think that was on The Simpsons. Homer was like, I'm listening to every word you're saying. And he just puts on glasses. Give me those glasses, Homer. No, it is, because then you're not going to be alert, because creativity is also a lot of energy. Yes, it is a joy. It's fun, but I'm also surprised too. When I have this Whoop on, the amount of strain that I go through when I'm doing something. I'm really intense. I don't think it's using a lot of mental energy and strain and, emotional, physical, but then I'll look and I'll be like, oh, wow. I was like, how did I get up there so far? And I'm like, oh, it's because it is a lot. And so you have to take care of yourself.
Are you using like a watch that tracks some of your vitals or something like that?
So it's a Whoop. And so it's not even a watch. So it's just like, it goes straight to my phone, the app, and it gets I'll send you all the stuff. Whoop, if you want to sponsor me, that's totally fine for this podcast, because the only sponsor's me. So I'll gladly accept Whoop or Sunflower Cafe. I can throw that.
Is it called the D-Do? Is the name of the watch the D-Do? So you can say, this is a Whoop D-Do right here.
This is this is where for the YouTube version, we'll put like a hashtag dad joke just underneath here. We'll just keep track of these throughout. How many can we get?
As a dad, I can say all my jokes are dad jokes.
Oh my Lord. This Whoop has been very, very helpful, because it really does show the amount of strain. There are times where I don't think I'm using anything, like in the studio, and I'm like, oh, I was just palm muting guitar for like 40 minutes. But meanwhile, it's like, whoa, you were doing this for 40 minutes. What activity were you doing? And I'm like, oh shit. Okay.
Oh,
Didn't
interesting.
realize that. So
I felt that way.
Yeah.
I felt that way in the studio when I'm playing guitar and doing overdubs. I'll realize you put in a lot of time and intensity, and you're like, sometimes you're hunched over, funny, and it's like, it's very physical. You really break a sweat,
You can, especially for like period where you're going section by section, doubling, tripling. And you're right, like how you're holding yourself, the tension in your muscles, and it's just like to be precise. And so when you talk about, veganism and taking care, I'm like, yeah, that matters, because songwriters want to be sustainable. And what you're saying, we want to create more. Like when you start creating, you realize you get into that flow. There's no limit to your creation. Like there's not a point where you're going to be like, oh, I used up the 60 songs that like I'm able of creating, can't create anymore. But when you realize, oh, it's the first 60 songs to get going, and then you can just keep on creating and creating. And what I think is uniquely interesting about you is, not only have you been a producer, engineer, and just, I would say, aficionado when it comes to the podcast world with your podcast, like, going through your statistics, it's amazing, because, how many episodes are we at this point? Like when you first launched?
Oh man. Well, you're about to do an interview with me on my show soon, and that'll be, almost 560 at that point.
God, like that to me blows my mind, because that's sustainability there too. And just consistency, because, your episodes are awesome because you do such deep dives with the guest in terms of their process, their system. And I love talking about that, but you are also a songwriter. And it's funny, I feel like we skip over that sometimes, because it's like, oh, tell me about your podcast, tell me about your studio, and how you championed producers and home studio owners here in Nashville, and how you fought for our rights. But you're a songwriter,
which we just won, by the way. Just won it. Just won the actual court case.
That is, and how long was that? That's another sustainability.
That was 10 years, 10 years.
Jesus,
and we finally, we don't have to go into the whole story, but the brief overview is that I fought for the right for us to be able to have home studios in Nashville. I sued the city of Nashville, sued Metro, and that lawsuit has been running for 10 years, because Nashville had this silly restriction that said, oh, you can work from home, you can make music from home, but you can't have a customer come over. And we're like, oh, really? Well, it's a little hard to have somebody, record their voice or their guitar acoustic in front of your microphone if they can't actually come over to the house. So I fought for that, and then we just won it. And during that process, to your point of sustainability, I worked with 2 different legal organizations, and I outlasted all of my counselors and everybody at every organization, except for maybe one person who does the PR stuff. Taylor, shout out to you. So that's been a really long thing. But sustainability, it's important. And like they say that the measure of success sometimes is just to be the last person standing.
But how many people sit down? Like, that's what always blows my mind. You're talking about being the last one standing, and I feel like so many people buckle or just kind of go like, I'm sitting down. I don't think it's going to happen. And yet there are some that still stand. They're like, nope, I'm seeing this through. Like, I'm willing to keep on going. It's going to work out. I don't know. I want to get into your songwriting, and I think it flows into your songwriting, but was that just always you? Is that just your process of how you treat things? Like, it's just that grit almost?
I think so. I think I must have a little bit of an understanding of it because my family background, we still have a family gathering in the summers on my mom's side where we all go up and visit a house by Lake Michigan that my great grandfather built over 100 years ago. So, I never really thought about it too specifically, but that must be part of why, I have that understanding of longevity of time, is just seeing it in family too.
Because it's just obvious because it's like right now we're talking about a couple different facets of you. And I feel like that's a continuing theme. And that's like a continuing theme of grit, which is you're also someone that is willing to adjust, pivot, make moves. And, you and I have talked about this, but I want to talk about you put out an album. And I feel when you put out an album, it's for a couple of reasons. It's something that you want to say, you're inspired, because that in itself takes time, intention. Why did you put out this album? So it's like you record this too in Costa Rica, which I'm like, that's not bad. I was like, I'll
Well,
record
it's all connected actually. So
okay.
As part of the health stuff, I was headed down to I had decided that I wanted to go to this health clinic down there and spend a month in Costa Rica at this place. I had put that on my to-do list. It took me 5 years to get there. And finally, I got everything lined up. I saved up the funds for it. I was ready to go. It was like the perfect time in my life to go. My daughter had, I'd just become an empty nester. And so that was the window for me to do it. And I selected the month of April, and I paid my money to go to the thing. And then and I got my ticket, and everything was ready. And a month before, the place that I was going to go and stay at and do this health retreat was it went bankrupt, and they got evicted by the bank. And then they threw everybody out who was on the clinic just before I was going to be there. And then they burned the whole place to the ground. So I was like, wait, what just happened?
Yeah, that's a very specific series of it. And like at the end, let's just burn it down. No, literally, let's burn it down right now. Let's burn it all.
So they leveled the place. And so then I was like, I kind of accepted. I was like, okay, well, I don't know if I can say this, but shit happens. Sometimes you got to just deal with what comes along. And I thought about it, and I was like, well, wait a minute, hold up. I'm not just going to like hang around Nashville and not go on the trip and just like, keep working and keep, doing the stuff I always do. I was like, I gotta go just take time off and do a vacation or something. I'll make up my own version of that. So I thought about where I wanted to go. And then I thought, well, you already got the ticket to Costa Rica. Why don't you just go there? And so I looked around, and I just started popping around on YouTube, and I was like, and AI, I was using ChatGPT for the first time, new user, just like all of us were at that time. And so I said, all right, I'm going to go, where's the best place to go? What's the best beaches? Where should I go? And I found a town and I thought I was going to go. And then I watched some videos, and then it was like, oh, that's pretty touristy, bit pricey. I don't want to go to spring break kind of setting. And so then I found another one that was south of that, that was a little bit more quiet. And it was a place called Samara Beach. And it's on Guanacaste, which is the peninsula that comes out into the Pacific. And it's down sort of near approaching the bottom of the peninsula. And apparently it's, it's gorgeous weather. It's tons of fresh tropical fruit. It's beautiful sand beaches. It's like known to be one of the top places to go for beginning to learn how to surf. And I was like, great, let's do that. So I shifted my plans. I found myself a little like an oceanside. I mean, it was, half mile from the ocean, something like that. I just could easily just go to the beach anytime I wanted. And it was just a 1-room beach shack. It was an Airbnb with a few others, and they had a little shared swimming pool. So I went down there, rented that for a month. And then every morning I would go and I signed up at the surf school, and I learned how to surf on one end of the beach. And then I would surf in the morning. So I'll try to be quick, but the surfing is all about the high tide. So the timing of everything is like, what time is the high tide? Because you want to start surfing 2 hours before that, and then you're done 2 hours after that. And actual high tide is not so great, so you take a break. So I'd go in the morning, surf for like 45 minutes, learn how to do it. I was exhausted. It's so tiring, totally exhausting. And then be worn out and feeling great, really energized. And I'd go over to the hotel next to me, lay on one of those nice lounge chairs that's right there, get a mango smoothie, and then write poetry and lyrics while I'm resting, looking out at this beautiful view. And then I go surf a little bit more. After that, I'm like feeling great about my new lyric idea. And then, go hit lunch. And then in the afternoon, I'd take my guitar over to the other beach, which is the public beach, which is more quiet. And meanwhile, while I was there, I just rented a bicycle with a basket on it. That's all I needed, just a little beach cruiser. You get around everywhere, and take those new lyrics and go to the other beach and just decide before dinner, before the day's out, I'm just going to write a song on the beach, and I'll just come up with something. And so I did that every day, as best I could. And there's more. I'll pause so that you can interject more questions. But there's I learned more about what my creative process is through that too.
All of that sounds magical, because I'm just like, yes, I want to serve. Yes, I want to go lie on, be hit with the sun and then have a mango smoothie and be like, I must recharge right here. It's just like,
exactly.
It's ideal. And it's interesting that you say, so were you inspired, because everybody writes differently. I know everybody has those catalysts, and I'd be curious to know, especially since this was very intentional. It was like even though there was, it was relaxing, you were clearly starting to come up with a flow of like how this was going to work. And sometimes when there's a nice clear flow, I find at least ideas are allowed to come about much more freely. So it started with where you kind of inspired by lyric ideas, and then it led to the musical side. Have you always been lyrics and then melody, or was this kind of like you were not judging the process, but just allowing it to just whatever happens this time around, that's cool?
I was honestly, I have not always been lyrics and melody. I've always been the other way around. I'm always the guitar guy who I can come up with guitar ideas, no problem. I don't mind inventing a structure for a song, and then it still can be challenging for me to play it in one take as a recording. So I'll talk more about some of the ways I handle that. But for me, the lyrics, that's the new frontier, right? I've always been the guy who was a utility guy in the band. I enjoy being creative. I can come up with melodies quickly. I can sing harmony well. I can hear the harmonic intervals, all that kind of stuff. And so I put myself into that supporting role in bands, right? So I always felt like if I didn't have a great front man, somebody who could be the leader of the band, then I didn't have an opportunity to make music, right? And I think this will resonate with some of your listeners. That, of course, led me to the thought of, well, I also have the technical interests and I love the, the computer and the studio stuff and the equipment. So I'm comfortable in that world. So why don't I go to recording school? And so I really jumped into the music production, the engineering, spent decades, as I like to say, helping everybody else realize their musical dreams. And so then, now as I got older, I'm like, well, man, what am I waiting on? I got into this because I love playing in bands, love playing music. When are you going to go out and just do your own songs and do your own music? And because as we get older, bands, our friends, the stuff that kept us occupied, it's a common story that they sort of fade off, go in different directions. People have families. It sort of fades out, disappears, and you can be left feeling like you're not doing as much music as you want. So for me, the lyrics was the process of saying, I'm going to step out of my shell. I'm going to step into the hard work. I'm going to lean into the sharp points, as the Buddhists would say. And I'm going to just be willing to write stupid songs, be willing to write dumb lyrics, be willing to try stuff and just step into it. So that's why I was doing that.
There's so much, continue. There's so much, there's a lot within just that I find super interesting, because allowing it to just be and come out, as opposed to those that love to go like, oh, I must look at this lyric. I'll think about it very, very hard. And then I will rewrite that first line, analysis by paralysis. It's just that never complete a song, because they're, big head, little body. They're always focused on that first part of it and always just leans heavily towards this. And when it's like, well, what's the bridge? What's everything else? Haven't written that yet. To just allow it. I'm going to allow this to come out, and then I'm going to go for my second surf later on. And then when I'm done with that, I'm going to take my guitar and I'm going to write a song, and it needs to be done by the end of the day. Doesn't have to be perfect. Doesn't have to be the final version. I am just going to make sure that by the end of the day, I have a song. Exactly. That is the best way to start writing, because you've got a process. You're just forcing yourself to just do it and holding yourself accountable, which most songwriters who I love that listen to this, but also need accountability. Number one reason why most don't finish songs.
Yeah. And accountability is crucial. I think it's great if you can hold yourself to your own accountability, but don't forget yourself is the one who also tells you, you know what, I need a break. I think watching Netflix sounds like a great idea, So it helps to have some outside forms of accountability. For me, while I was traveling, because I didn't know anybody down there and I didn't speak Spanish, and we'll get into more of that too, because I actually wrote a song in Spanish while I was there, which I'll talk about.
Yeah.
The accountability was my friends group, was being able to text message groups of friends and have that conversation ongoing. And the fact that my phone, I took a few phone calls. It still worked while I was traveling. Although it was really, I found that the text was the way to go, because you could share things, and then you could send your new lyric idea to people, and you could send, the recording of the song that you're doing. You could share that. And I could talk about all these too. So for me, going down there and having that routine in the day is a combination of things. So I already had an introduction and a concept of how to approach lyric writing that I was able to lean on for a little bit of a method. And then I knew how to play guitar. I've been playing guitar for a long time, so I'm comfortable messing around on a guitar. But like anybody, I always am like, you pick it up and you're like, God, my fingers need, where are my calluses? My chops are so lost right now. I suck. I used to be good at this. And you have to just wipe that idea out of your mind right away, because you remember pretty quickly that oh no, that's right. I get really good when I've been playing day after day for a few days and a week, all of a sudden I get my chops back. So I had that ability on guitar, but I had also a method and a process for how do I record a new idea? What am I going to record a song on? How do I go through that process? So for me, it's not pencil and paper. I've tried that. just not that good at it. My hand gets my poor writing hand gets too, gets cramped. So, it's more digital, and I
Yeah.
embrace all those things.
I love it. I love that as well. This was like years ago. I had Jared Reddick from Bowling for Soup on, and he talked about when he was writing a single with um, the late Adam Schlesinger of like Fountains of Wayne, and they were writing, and like Adam was like, "Put your pad and pencil away. We are only using our computers, and that's how you're going to write from now on. We are going to share a Google
Wow.
Doc. We're not going to do. This is it. You're going to get rid of that." So I love it too because it's very easy to capture things. I don't have to carry things. I can just grab my phone and just be like, "Da, da, da, da." Done, written.
Yeah.
With the
Well, it's
process of
cool because you
yeah.
talked about like sharing a Google Doc. That's one of the things that I've learned more recently, especially if you're co-writing with people who don't necessarily, I don't know, maybe don't use things like Google Docs. My cousins, for example, brother, cousins, when I co-write songs with them, because we'll write songs for like family occasions, that's another great one. What a great
Yeah.
opportunity to practice writing songs. You write a celebration song for, an event, a birthday, whatever. Um, but in those instances, being able to collaborate on an Apple Note, like everybody's got the iPhone. A lot of people have the Apple Notes app. They don't
Mhm.
even have to go get a thing to have it. And so that's an easy way to just like share a lyric as you're working on it. But continue.
No, I was gonna say what's interesting about that, what you're posing right there is even when people go like, "I don't," there's a solution. And that's
Right.
another interesting thing about longevity and just like consistency. I find that those people who are consistent often look for solutions and not the wall. And so when you're talking about
Right.
this, I'm like, "Oh, that's interesting. That is a common thing about Lij. He always looks for solutions. He's not someone that is quick to see the wall and be like, well, I guess the wall's there, so let's turn around and go back." Now, it's just like, no, you find a solution to it.
Now, to that point, I will also say, because this is the devil's advocate, sometimes the solution finding creates a wall. I've experienced that
Mm,
too. There have been times in my life where I would hook up stuff, like, oh, if I just got the studio hooked up just right, then I'd be making music. And I'd do that and I get everything all dialed in. I put all this effort, connecting the dots, whether it was, the latest way to link two apps in the computer so that they're finally talking to each other. And then I still wouldn't make the song. And I realized I was like, oh shit, you can't just keep kicking the can down the road because you're dialing in the perfect process. And at the same time, then even later, I forgave myself for that because I was like, wait a minute, maybe you just really enjoy hooking stuff up. That's okay too. So it's like, you got to have that ability to forgive yourself through the process.
with this process too, especially from which I love the writing process because it sounds that's a dream for me. It's like go to the beach, surf, sit back, have a smoothie, journal, write, get some lyric ideas, then go back out, go back for another one, have some lunch, grab your guitar and write the song. When you went to
You're making me
record
want to go
these,
back, dude.
I know. You're making me want to do that. Like I'm just gonna after this, I'll be like, Jen, we're going to Puerto. This is where we're going to Costa Rica for a little bit. Here's what's going to happen. um, when it came to the recording process, did you want to keep it a particular way? Because sometimes when people write, they go, "Oh, I want it to be like this and that, and I'm gonna have like 6 strings, and then I'm gonna have like this orchestra and a quartet, and then I'm gonna get this." Because you have the capability, and I feel like all of the assets and you know the people that if you wanted to build this to a scale, you could. Did you
Yeah.
not want to do that, and you wanted to really just like this is what it is?
No, I absolutely was thinking like that. So I um, would take each song and I'd work it up on the beach and I'd learned how this app that I use. So I use this thing. This is what I took down. It's this thing called this Isotope Spire Studio. And
Yeah.
unfortunately it's discontinued now, but you can still find them used. But this thing is battery powered. Let's see if the battery's still going. Oh shoot, I think the battery stopped. Dang it. Otherwise you get like this nice flashing light display right there. But this thing it's battery powered. It's got its own internal hard drive. It's got a stereo mic on the front. I can plug my headphones in. You might be like, whatever. There's lots of these kind of little things, and there are. But this one just really worked cool because it works with the app on your iPhone to control it. So you have the app where you see all the tracks and you can record your different overdubs. And then it also has this great feature in it where, one of the challenges when you're recording, because we have iPhones, we've got GarageBand, we can, we've got other apps in there. I think Multitrack DAW was when I started using it first. You can punch in and record, but the two challenges there are, so first of all, if you want to record on your iPhone, you got to use wired headphones, everybody. Don't try and use your earbuds. That won't work because there's a delay. There's a delay. There's a delay. Do you get it now? And then, so you use wired.
That would be dad joke number 2. So if we're keeping score right now, there would be a little thing that pops up and then it goes 2.
Yeah. So when you're recording on your iPhone, you get that latency effect, which messes with the sound in the earphones. But the real thing that was kicking my ass is I would have like I said, I could play the guitar idea, but I couldn't nail it perfectly from top to bottom on the song. And I know for me, some people maybe will figure out how to sing and play the song and they'll just work on it until they've got it and they can perform it. For me, I enjoy playing the guitar part first and then figuring out how to fit the words and the lyrics and the melodies. And I explore whole new places that way that I think I never would have gone to in songwriting. And so I like that process, but that means I have to be able to lay down the guitar part all the way through. And a lot of the apps will let you sort of auto punch in, but then you have to like tell it where to auto punch out, and it gets really clunky and you start feeling like you're switching into engineer brain when you're trying to be in creative flow brain and you're trying to remember how to actually play the guitar. And the app that comes with this guy is the first one that I found where you can just put the cursor on, find the spot or you can play it back, hit stop right where you messed up, and then just immediately hit the record button and it rewinds, does the pre-roll, and you're playing along and then it drops you right back into record and just keeps going and doesn't stop, right? So that means awesome. You have an opportunity to like stay, because it's so quick, I could stay in the creative mindset of like, I'm in guitar. I'm thinking about the groove and what I'm doing with my hands. I'm not thinking about the stupid phone right now,
What I love about that, and it's funny that you mentioned that too, the idea of having your guitar, just laying it down first. And I do see value when people are like, but I need to play and sing. I get that because it's kind of like the live mentality mindset. Like if you're playing it live, you got to be able to do it live. I get that. Being able to just record the guitar at first, you're able to, there's so many nuances too that you can focus a little bit in the dynamic control of your guitar because you're 100% focused on how that's coming across. You're really focused that you're shaping the song kind of like, that roller coaster ride of dynamic building up, and that it's not this like like, just like that you're chugging along. Judy Stakey and I did a retreat back in September. And that was one of the things. We had all the co-writing groups, we had them record, but when they recorded, they had to start with the instrument first. So that means they had to understand the structure of the song. They had to be able to play to the metronome. They had to be able to dynamically go up and down. So they had to understand the song. And I think there's something to be said where if you can understand it, like just the music side of it, and then it allows you, as you said, afterwards, you then feel like there's this play that you can have melodically. You look for new moments to, I was singing it like this because I was playing it as I was going. But now that I don't have to, and it's like, hands-free songwriting, I can now mess around with new melodic variances because I've got that room. And you may change it. You might not, but to me, there's so much play that it allows you on the creative side of things.
Big time. And you can sort of look for moments to sort of soar vocally, you know, where you might not have done that if you were playing guitar because you're more tethered. Now, it does present challenges. So the challenge is later when you go to relearn the song and you're trying to figure out how to play it and sing it, it can be like one of those, oh. So I'm a banjo player too. I'll just come right out and admit it. But in the past, I had to learn how to sing harmony and play banjo. And that's one of the most mind, I don't want to use, you know, the language that's going to get you in trouble on
Go
your
ahead,
channel,
you
but
can. It
I think
is
you
it
know what I'm
is
going to
one
say. It's a total
it's one
mind
of the
fuck.
most
You know what I mean?
fucking hardest things possible because let alone singing melody, but to sing harmony, you have to be, okay, I'm the third, but this part I need to go down. And like it's always it's difficult. That's already another beast in itself. But to do that while playing a very particular pattern on banjo.
Right. It's just so like it can feel like that when you're relearning your song if you do it this way, but I think it's still just a great exercise because, you know, remember with all this stuff we do with creativity, it's totally correct for us to push things to a boundary, figure out where the edge is. You know, your toes are hanging off. You're looking over. Okay, that's the edge. If I go any further than that, I'm gonna fall into the abyss. And sometimes that edge is like, you know, sometimes the edge is like that a song is too complex. Sometimes the edge is, oh, you because you were recording the vocals and you could punch in, you literally put so many lyrics into the song and so much singing that there's no room for you to breathe when you go to perform it, and it feels like you're not getting a break. Sometimes the edge is the other direction where it's like, oh, you made this so easy to play that it's just boring as shit. What a boring song, you know? Or maybe you know, you discover that the edge for you was like, you know, you could strum the song all the way through and then you listen back and you're like, wow, that's a really dull guitar part. It's jung ja gunga junga jung ja gunga junga jung ja gunga junga jung ja gunga jung. Chorus goes like jung ja gunga jung. It's the exact same chords, you know.
It's the same thing. And what's interesting about what you're saying right there, we could shape all those things as like, oh, those are terrible. But what I think is great is like if something comes out of this for someone that may try to do what exactly you did, maybe they don't have the beach, maybe they don't have the surfing, maybe it's not a mango smoothie, but they try to recreate as much as possible. I feel like the process you did, you suddenly understand so much more about your tendencies and how you write and what you tend to write more of, what you tend to write less of, and how you can really push yourself to find new ways to create. Yeah, was that like the case, like through this process, you suddenly discovered, I never thought I would write like this or end up doing this?
Yeah, 100%. So for me, it was a approaching, it's in the lyric space that I really felt that way because again, the guitar, the recording, all that stuff I've got a lot of experience with because like I said, I've been making everybody else's records for a long time. So I'm comfortable in that world. But in the lyrics space and in the singing and in even hitting higher notes or expanding my range, those are places where, you know, or exploring what my voice can even do, because that's a big one for a lot of us too. It's like, well, who am I? What does my voice even sound like when I say? Do I sound like Dylan, or you know, do I sound? I don't know if that actually sounded like Dylan.
It is.
But
It's
like,
one version of Dylan. I mean, there's many versions. We could sit here the different iterations of Dylan himself and his voice. There's the gargling with
right,
glass. There's just
the gargling with glass. Or you know, I mean, you know, or you've got like, I don't know, just there's anybody you can think of. There's so many styles of ways to sing, and it's fun to impersonate or to mimic those styles. And I think it's actually a good idea because it helps you explore what your voice could do. And I think you'd also be probably shocked to discover that a lot of favorite singers, you know, that's not the way they speak in person, you know, and you're like, oh, you kind of found that style of singing as well. So it's good to like go explore those things. But for me, lyrically, one example was, like I said, I was using ChatGPT. That was like my best buddy on this trip. Boy, I'll tell you, going down to a Spanish speaking country, not knowing how to speak Spanish. I had taken 1 year in high school. And so I had this tiny bit of knowledge. And it was so great to be able to just say like, oh, how do I say, where's the bus stop? And then it tells you. And so you start getting it made it really easy to learn ways to speak the language. So at one point I had been, the whole month I was there, I was learning more and more about speaking. And I was always like, oh, how do you say that? What's the word for this? Oh, wow, that's such a great expression. And there were all these terms like this is really funny to me, but the term for wave is hola, like hello, right? And I was like, no way, they call waves down there, they call them hellos. And then I thought about it, I'm like, duh, what do you think a wave is? Hello. So you learn stuff like that, right? And then the waves that crash, you get whitewater, and there's a name for that. But I was trying to, you start out surfing in the whitewater. That's the easy one. You wait for it to crash, then you catch the wave. Then once you're feeling like I'm ready to break out, I want to do like the things that people are doing out there. Then you learn, oh, you need to go out past the breaking wave, and you go to where the waves are like 45 degrees, and you try and catch them and time it there. And those are called olas verdes, which is the green waves, because they look sort of more greenish, I guess, when the water's rising or something. And I was like, oh God, what a beautiful expression. So you're picking up on all these details. Another really funny one was apparently the name for wife in Spanish is the same word used for handcuffs. I was like, you gotta be kidding me.
I can't wait to tell Jen that one. I'll be like, guess what? I've discovered this new name.
My question was, what's the word for husband? But anyway, it's just really funny to find that stuff. So at a certain point, I started I was writing these down. And so I was keeping all of my notes. I have something, which I won't go too deep into, but my best buddy, Chris King, who I've been making songs with forever, he came up with this idea called the gig book. And it was from touring days. And he would just write down where the next gig is, how we're getting there, stuff like that. But he'd also write down everything that he was hearing on the trip. It'd be quotes from people at that night at the gig or whatever, or lyric ideas, whatever. So it became this concept of going back and referring to the gig book for lyrics. So that's what I call the Apple Note that I have, that is my placeholder for everything that I hear that I want to jot down at the time. And it's really important to write down. Don't be afraid. Write down sentences that you hear people say, write down quotes from things, write down ideas that you have, and then forget about it, right? Because you can come back later. And that's what I would do during those breaks when I wanted to write lyrics and poetry, is I'd come back and I'd browse through that sometimes, and I'd look for phrases that I really liked, and I'd re-grab them and copy them into a new note. And that's another little tip. Find 2 notes apps on your phone. Maybe it's the Apple Notes to hold the gig book stuff, but then another one, I think I was using one called Pretext, which was like a really, really simplified text editor, and it looked different too. It's nice to see a visual difference between the two things, where I was copying and where I was pasting. And then I'd take all those lines, and you're looking at it and you're like, well, yeah, but still, okay, I kind of forgot what the context was. So now I'm seeing it in an abstract way, but how do I rearrange them? So then you can do fun experiments where you're like, okay, what's the date today? Oh, it's 4/11, and for April 11th or something like that. And then you could say, all right, let me rearrange these into lines of 4 syllables and 11 syllables. Even maybe try 4 and 8. Maybe it's easier, but that gives you ways to like rearrange the stuff. And then you can come up with new poems that way. I kind of forgot how I got into this. Oh, it was exploring different stuff. So
there were
one
so
of
many
those
things that you hit right here. I don't mean to kill your train of thought, but it's just like you just described too, I think something that was really interesting. So you went in, especially going somewhere for a whole month where it's like, I'm going off of 1 year of Spanish from high school. I think I did like a year and a half. Like, yeah, I barely
Yeah.
remember anything. But one of the best ways to learn something is the implementation. And you were essentially throwing yourself into a culture, people, and you were just like, the way that you were learning words too is just like, oh, that's what it is. And you're seeing people use that. And so that immersion and that just deep dive, I think it's either in Be Your Future Self Now, or maybe it's in Who Not How. Benjamin Hardy talks about like the best way to learn is not through the, sitting, well, let me go get, I remember, what was it back in the day, Rosetta Stones, where you would get like, I shall get this
Right.
large thing from Borders books on
Right.
Spanish. And so sit here. The best way that you did was just through that deep dive. But then what was also inspiring is through the deep dive, you were also inspired by these words that they were saying. You were like, oh, it's
Yeah.
hello. And it's like, it's like the green wave. And it's like, that is amazing. And then that sparked something, but that wouldn't have happened had you, I don't know, just like you sitting at a Rosetta Stone or whatever they use now and just being like, oh, that's how you say hello. That's wave. That is green wave.
Well, you're making the point, which is so important, is understanding that it's okay for us to absorb the small pieces of experience that come our way and embrace them, own them, accept them as ours, and, learn or create through those. Because otherwise we, like you said, we decide, oh, you either do a deep dive on learning in Spanish or you don't, and you don't speak Spanish. And it's like, it doesn't have to be that way. Or it's like, oh, you're either a fully committed career successful songwriter or you're not. And then that leaves you feeling like a failure, right? So, but you don't need that. All you need to do is just know that you and your story and what you're going through and that little experience you just had is pure gold nugget, right? You can create a song out of it. You don't need to worry about what it should be. Just let it be what it is.
You hit on another thing that I think is good. I think it's this, and maybe it's the gap in the gain. He talks about this. What you're talking there is like, what is your personal ideal? What is your ideal that you're measuring this by? Because like, as you said, there are two extremes. Like if you're a songwriter, well, I was watching so and so. Okay, so now you're measuring yourself by their ideal and you feel
Right.
like you don't measure up. Well, then let's go to the extreme of people that don't do it and you measure it by that ideal and it's safe, and then you don't do any of that and you live a little quiet life. You just don't feel like it measures up. But what is your inspiration, your reason? When you start measuring by that, it starts to feel very good. And that's where the good things come about. That's where the
Yeah.
development and the things that you're trying to achieve start to happen more and more. You're also very not complacent, but you're very content. You're not worried about the metric of others or these other systems, but you feel very solid on who you are, why you create, what you put out into the world. And I don't know, it's just a very, it's a present feeling, and it
Yeah.
feels
Well,
and it's liberating.
it's hugely liberating because then all of a sudden, it doesn't matter who you are, whoever you are listening to this right now, literally the moment before you sit down to write a song versus the moment after when you've worked on something for a minute, you've now got something to feel great about because you're only comparing yourself to where you were before you started. So that's why it's so powerful if we just sit down and, do the work on stuff. And the moments like I experienced down in Costa Rica were great. And even that we have to be careful that we're not too precious about our memory of an experience because then we get stuck on that, right? Because inevitably, like I come back and I'm working every day and I'm doing stuff and I'm like, where's the creation? And sometimes I just say, you know what? Screw it. There's no way this is the right time of day for me to spend 10 minutes writing a poem, but I'm just going to do it anyway. And you'll be amazed that something will come out of that, right? You don't have to sweat it, but just put in your 10 minutes, put in your 15 minutes. But, to that point too, so when I was doing the song in Spanish, I had to have that first idea. And then I'd turn to my songwriting buddy, ChatGPT, and I'd say, hey, what's a word that rhymes with that word in Spanish? And it spit out a bunch, right? And then I'm like, ooh, that's cool. What, and it'd tell you what they mean. And then you think about the meaning of the word. And then I'd think I'd have an idea for like, oh, how can I put that? I can hear a poetic next line for that word. How do I put that in there? And then you just say, how do you say that? And then it'll spit
That's a great
something out.
example of ChatGPT, which again, I know that especially in creatives, they're very sensitive around AI things. And it's like, walking on hot coals.
Yeah.
And it's just, whoa. But what you're describing right there is that is AI is literally, it'll spit out whatever you ask it. That's all. It is just like,
Yeah.
it's prompted by you, how you interpret what it causes you to think, what it causes you to do, there's so many you things that are involved
Yeah.
that if we entered the same prompt, we would not get the same thing. I would probably be taken in a different direction. You would be taken in a different direction. Yet we used ChatGPT. And I love that you just kind of integrated in your flow, yet it brought more of you to the songs and to the party. It just brought out more of you and allowed you to experiment and play with it.
Yeah. I've already like long since discarded this concept of the prompt. To me, that looked like bullshit when people were talking about AI. And I'm like, wait, what is this shit where people are talking about using it like you have to be a coder or something? I'm like, I just like, screw it. I'm just going to have a conversation with it. So I just tell it what I want it to do, and there's definitely tricks you can do to get it to work better. One of them is, um, you start a conversation or a thread and give it a name. Make sure you name it. Like, this is my lyric thread, or this is my whatever, or this is a particular song that I'm working on. And that way, every time you pick the conversation back up, always pick up back in that conversation. And then it will remember some of the previous stuff that you want it to. It'll still screw up, but it'll screw up a lot less. And, sometimes the hallucinations it has are funny, and, you come up with good ideas. But I found that really useful. And then, yeah, I mean, that was kind of it. It's like, to me, the attitude is, don't look, you got two options in life, right? You can either be afraid, or you can not be afraid. You can be afraid of fear, right? And so if you choose to avoid fear and just say, screw it, I'm not going to be afraid of stuff, I'm just going to figure out how to embrace things and move forward, then you just figure out your path, And so my attitude with the whole AI thing is, I just want to use it like a tool. I just want to treat it like Drum Machine 2.0. I mean, it's like, how do I go, if it's Drum Machine 2.0, how do I go make a Run DMC album? Come on, that was cool and new and original. You know what I mean?
This is what I think is, there's just so many continuing themes, when we started, it was like sustainability. And what you just described right there was, you're right. There are two options. I'm either going to be completely fearful, which is using your creative brain and creating a scenario that does not exist, and you are pretending to feel
Ooh,
everything from it. So the
that's
fear
deep,
is
man.
just like, you're just like, oh, you're just like allowing yourself to live in that. But that's your creative brain, and I don't wanna use my creative brain for stuff that works against me. I wanna use my creative brain for stuff that works for me. And so, what you said, then it's just like, I'm just gonna just dive in and start using it as a tool and have a conversation. I'm just gonna accept that even if I put up all the extreme resistance, I doubt that's gonna stop. They're gonna be like, "Oh, let's close it down. Mike's not for it. Let's put it we're gonna make sure that." No, they're just gonna be like, "Okay." So I might as well just start using it as a tool to my advantage and see how it can spark new things of creativity
And
and not.
again,
Yeah.
if you want to, I mean, like, I have friends, my friend Chris, he's been doing it for so long, writing lyrics and words and poetry, that I just don't think he needs it, he's in his comfort zone. But for me, that's how I feel on the guitar, so I use it for the places where I've got, um, less skills and I could use a little bit of help, you know?
It's like a little virtual assistant. It's essentially giving you those tools. As you said, you have specialized skills that you've developed through not only the 10,000 hours, but I feel like the 10,000 iterations, because what you've done is not just one, but like many different versions of it. You've refined it and you've built those skills. For these other things, you view it as like, even if I had the 10,000 iterations, I don't think it would get to the level that it's easier if I use this to just help me gain other ideas and other concepts. And I think that's a fantastic idea. And when you look back at this entire project, you have 6 songs that you recorded. What are you most proud of? And like, what do you think are some of the things that you just take away from this when you look at the process, the whole thing, the
All right.
experience, the writing? What did you take away that just felt like that?
So at the risk of breaking your edit process, I'm going to attempt a screen share here and show you.
Go ahead.
So this is the record that I did, and this is what it looks like there when you're just standing there on the beach recording in Samara. And I did a collection of songs, and each one came from a different kind of thing, but this is the one that I really enjoyed. Right here, "Don't Sit Under the Coconut Tree," because I was at the beach at the surf school one day, and I was standing around just on the edge of where the surf school was, on the edge of the beach. And the woman came over to me and she said, "By the way, you might not want to stand there because there's a remarkable number of people who get knocked out in Costa Rica. So don't stand under the coconut tree." And I was like, okay, you got to be kidding me. You just said, don't stand under the coconut tree. Like, this is the gig book process for me. At that point, I'm like, that is going in the gig book. I got to write a song about that. So that was the one that I set out with the most intention to like try and get dialed in on my trip. And it took me days, and I used different resources at my disposal. I brainstormed a little bit with ChatGPT here and there. I don't even remember what ways it was, but it might be like, what are some other ways I could say this line or something? Never like write a song for me, but just like, what are other words for something? What are other expressions? It can be helpful there. But I got through a verse and a chorus, and then I had that classic, right? Everybody's going to understand this. I was at that classic point where you're like, now I feel stuck. What do I do next? How do I hit that second verse? And I actually took my verse and my chorus and I went into my friend's text message group with my other songwriting friends, and I did the text message co-write. And I was just like, give me some, you guys want to jump in? I need more verses. Who wants to jump in and come up with another verse for this? And so Chris sent me some great ideas, brilliant ideas that went into the second verse. So the first verse that I wrote went like this. So, and I was using all these ideas of metaphor for everything and trying to like tie things together. But also, I think I did a breakdown of Hotel California. I was like, I wanted to have a theme, like a storyline somehow like that. And so, it's good to have, like, it's not even close to a Hotel California when it's done, but it's okay for us to like, look at something, like concentrate on an object, like meditation, while we're working on it. But I came up with, the sun and the sand were kissing the beach. No, excuse me. The salt and the spray were kissing the beach. The sand was a flame rising up from beneath. The belly of the sun pressed down on my face. I knew I must find a cool, shady place, right? I could see through the mist the shape of a girl. She danced like the ocean with eyes of pearl. I sat in the shade and she smiled my way. From the coconut grove, I could hear her say, "Don't sit under the coconut tree." It's so funny. It's really hard to just say the lyrics without singing them. "Don't sit under the coconut tree." You know what? I just forgot the second line, and I just played a line. I did an open mic last night for the NSAI event, and I forgot my lyrics 3 times on stage. But I
can't tell you how many times I forget lyrics when I have to play through a song because I'm like, what is it again? How's this go? But
come feel my kisses here by the sea. Your heart might break on my ocean bed, but this little coconut won't break your head. This little coconut. So that was it, right?
I'm also just amazed the number of people that probably have been like concussed or like just talked out by coke, like that. It's like, it's an epidemic where they're just like, it's like, it happens. So I'm sure that we could ask ChatGPT about like, what's the percentage of how many people are injured.
And I was writing the song underneath coconut trees where I'd be like, oh yeah, that's right. Let's step over
it's
here.
like, oh, that's right. I can't. But this feels like it was a project that helped connect you to different ways of creating, new ways of understanding how you create, challenging yourself to create, and then also giving yourself like a clear structure of like, it's only going to look like, this is what I'm going to do. This is how I'm going to record. This is what I'll do each. There was a clear process and system that even in a beautiful setting, you gave yourself a clear process and system to get this project done.
And I did it, on the days when I wanted to, I just did that. I made sure that I did that. I didn't make other plans. And, the beauty is it's great to go right by yourself, go by yourself. You don't know anybody else. So that I wasn't pulled in social directions. I started to meet people and I started to make some plans. Oh, we'll meet for lunch. We'll meet for drinks at the end of the night or whatever. Oh, also every night I'd go out and go ride my bike back into town. There was great live music there. It's all just cover bands, but it was like, it's so chill. It's not like over the top in Nashville where there's 1,000. It's just like, okay, there's
where
4 people playing.
1,000,000 bars and each bar has a band. It's just, I bet it is. It's just a different way of experiencing music. Also the fact that you were like, I just hopped on my bike and just like, drove down to the town. And I'm like, oh, that sounds amazing.
It was, the temperature is perfect there. You literally can't put a t-shirt is too much fabric. You'd wear a sleeveless shirt because otherwise like this would be too hot.
Oh, this just sounds, it's just like, now I'm just wanting to go. Cause now I'm just like, all right, I need to find yes, I'm going to write songs but I also want to surf too. I want to learn how to surf. I always
So to close out on this thought with the coconut song, this was a really fun moment for me. I realized I was like, oh shit, when I record this, I should add percussion. I should add coconuts as percussion. So I went to the hardware store. I bought a little handsaw, and then I went to, I can't remember what order I did this in. Maybe that happened later. But then I went to the beach and I found a couple of coconuts. I found 2 coconuts that were the right size. And then I came back, sawed them in half and made like crook, 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 like horse hoof coconuts. And then I just like made that my click track on the little app. I just sort of like clomped on the side of the wall of my little shack there.
That's amazing.
And a lot of times I actually wrote and sang right in that, where that shot was, that photo, right on the public beach. And it was great. It's another nice part about being in a place where it's a different language. You can walk around. I mean, if you get used to the fact that people give you funny looks when you're going around with big headphones on, studio headphones, singing into this weird, black digital coconut, walking around the beach. But you're singing in English. They speak Spanish. They don't know what you're doing. You just get used to it. Get in that zone where you're like, I don't care what people think. That was a big one for me to get over to, because I get really self-conscious if somebody can hear me. I always grew up that way. And so like breaking out of that and thinking I'm willing to just sing a dumb lyric idea I came out with at a high note in a public space and screw it, and then you can start coming up with stuff.
To me, and that's a whole other can of worms. Like just that thought of, I think a good chunk of songwriters are very self-conscious. We're self-conscious about our ideas. We're self-conscious when we present the ideas. We're always looking for that perfect iteration of them too. And then people go like, well, when they're trying to sing out a lyric idea, they're worried that it's going to be pitchy or not where but the idea of like the more relaxed you get and the more you're like, you know what? I'm going to let it be what it is. I'm going to sing it and I'm not going to worry about what someone else thinks. There's a looseness, a relaxedness, and I think that's where you get to more authentic feels because it doesn't feel like you're hovering over looking for the perfect iteration of each thing.
And it doesn't matter where you are. That's the beauty of it. Every single songwriter out there can feel this way. Every single moment in your own song journey, you can feel this way, because no matter what level you're at and where in your creative process, in your head, there's always somebody who's at the next level. And that's the people that you're either worried about the people not being as good as somebody that seems to do this really well, or you're worried about some stranger and what they think who doesn't get any of it. And honestly, why the hell should you worry about them? They don't like your music anyway. They don't like the music you like anyway. They like that stupid music.
They're already self-conscious themselves, and they're probably thinking, I don't know who that person is. They're probably famous. Why don't I know them? And it's just like, and then so they're off. They're already thinking, but that you make a fantastic point. It's just like, listen, there's so many different levels of self-conscious. Everybody at some level is thinking about something else, and they're not thinking about you. So be the authentic self. Allow yourself to just go with the flow. And I think this was just such a fantastic story, because it showcased so many things, so many attributes that I think you just hold so well in your sustainability, in terms of your creation, your problem solving, and also too your willingness to just also expand your your knowledge of songwriting and your ability to write songs. So it's like, it was just because this is not what you hear a lot of. You hear people, I had, 4 co-writers, and we were in this room, and then we went to this studio right here, and then we, brought in so-and-so, 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 so, and it's just this long, never ending, like but the idea of just going and allowing yourself to be inspired and allowing yourself not to judge, and then just recording it.
Just
recording it. Yeah.
One of the people I kind of learned that lesson from, who is old school co-writer here in Nashville, totally in that world you just described, this individual would totally know how to do that, is Jim Lauderdale. When I was in California, I was at a Joshua Tree with a buddy of mine, and we had actually rented a place at I think it was called Rimrock Cabins or something, I think that's what it was.
Okay.
And it was these little cabins that somebody told us about. And we took guitars out in a 4-track, and we were going to go come up with ideas together. And guess who else was there? Turns out Jim Lauderdale was he was staying in one of the other little cabins there. And I would see him, and it was just him and an acoustic guitar, and he's out there in his cool outfit and his boots, and he's just kicking in the dust, just waltzing around in the desert, working on songs. And I was like, holy shit. He just gets away from Nashville and goes out into the desert and just goes to write songs and come up with ideas in a place where it's like nobody's looking at you, and you can just sing to the desert lizards or whatever. I was like, that's pretty smart. And so, and then you saw it in the picture, but this is what I also figured out. I embraced the idea. I learned about this probably from Jill Sobule years ago, was the idea of the travel guitar. This is a different model that she does. This is the Martin Backpacker, but I think I was able to get it for $150 when I bought it. These are great. You can sling this. It comes in a little soft bag that you sling over your shoulder, like you're carrying pool cues to the bar, to go be a pool shark for the evening or something like that.
I love that.
And you can I was able to bring it on a plane down to Costa Rica. I was nervous about it, but I did pull it off. You don't check it. You got to carry it on, but it's pretty small. But you need something small, because if you've got your big guitar and your big case or your big laptop or your big interface and your microphone and your stand, you're going to get stuck. You're going to be stuck at home, And if you want to go out into nature and look for inspiration, for me, I enjoy a lot of the poetry that comes from nature. You just start thinking metaphorically,
Dude, this is everything that we've talked about this has been so good, because I feel, I don't know, because I'm like, how many topics did we just cover in this episode? But this was all important. And I just think it was just rad to hear about your experience, because that's the thing too. This was your experience. This wasn't just like, I made it out. It was your experience. The reasoning I'm still blown away that we burned it down. Like, what the facility that was there, burn it to the ground. We are going to burn it completely. And you could have chosen to be like, ah, shit. Well, I guess I'm not going to go, and I'll just figure. I'll just be here and work on it. Now you found a way. Like again, you looked for an answer. You figured out a new way, and this was amazing. Now, if people want to listen to this album, if they want to find out more about you, where do they go?
Yeah, if you want to find my music, just go. I'm on all the streaming platforms under Lij Shaw, and it's Samara Beach songs, Pura Vida in Costa Rica, which is their expression for pure life. And these are the actual recordings I did on the beach. So to your point, I thought when I did them, oh, I'm writing songs, and then I should go back and do a band in the studio and, blah, 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 and, which I still will do at some point. But my buddy at an independent label, he was like, dude, these sound great. You can hear the waves and the birds and the monkeys in the background. You should just put them out like this. So I thought, yeah, why not? So you can hear the sound of the waves and the beach and the coconuts and all that stuff. And you can hear what this little app sounds like, to record onto.
I love that. And then, of course, if they want to go find your podcast as well.
Yeah. So come on over to Recording Studio Rockstars. There you see it on my t-shirt. And if you're already doing recording and, you've got that classic struggle of dealing with how do I get my mix to sound great, I have a free mixing course on there for you too. So you can go check that. It's called Mix Master Bundle.
Love that. We're going to provide all those links. So if you're on YouTube, you just scroll down to descriptions. You can find it there. If you're listening on Apple Podcast, Spotify, just scroll down to descriptions. And guess what? Links are all right there.
That's right.
Lij, thank you so much. This was awesome.
My pleasure, dude. It's always a pleasure to see you. And I look forward to our next lunch.
And that does it for this week's episode. Thank you for watching. Here's the thing. If you're on YouTube right now and you have yet to like and subscribe to our channel, be sure to click the subscribe button. You'll get notified every time we have a new video. And remember, this podcast comes out weekly. So just click that subscribe button. I'm Mike Myers. Thanks for listening.